poisonous turd hovers in the balmy air, blue as a fatal contusion. But Auden, in truth, was more like a funny, gay pessimist. Biographies skimmed reveal a wry sense of danger, a glimmering mordancy, the occasional attraction to murderers, wicked jokes. Anachronistically open about his sex life, he yet refused to accept himself as he was too neurotic and at the same time too Christian for that. He took care to seem more self-centered, indifferent, and aloof than he was intimately known to be, using effete aesthetics to obscure his severe and constitutive morality. Auden, when he wasn't mooning, appeared as his own negative image. He was variable too. He lived to reject as stupid or wrong his old verses, but forgot to deny what he'd famously said early on, that all his poems concerned love. In Gone Tomorrow, the motives and ends are both ulterior, the plotting chirotic. Paul, a cipher for Dieter Scheider, to whom the book is dedicated, begins making a film so experimental that the script is unfinished at shooting time in Bogotá, Colombia. Under the posthumous influence of a low German auteur a la Fassbinder, he travels and works with a sybaritic entourage led by a translator whose name, Valentina Vogel, rings predictively of Veronica Voss. His ambition is fateful. Starring in the film is Irma, a rusty sexpot who effumes the silvery illusion of perverse insatiability. Opposite her is Michael, an unknown whose southern beauty is so extreme that it rips off the veneer of civilization, which is to say he looks like the girl in Joseph Conrad's Victory. That Indiana and Joan Didion have the same favorite Conrad novel makes sense. He likes to trace, as she does, but less overtly, less permanently, the journey Heist takes away from the world and from the self that exists because of others, and to linger on the eve of sure disaster. The narrator, whose part seems minor, watches the leads rehearse a sex scene. Between them is developing the possibility of murder, says Paul. Between their characters, the narrator tries to clarify, but the working definition of love is already clear. Locals say a serial killer is loose in Bogotá. Dinner is interrupted by the most erotic cockroach since the one in Clarice Lispector's maid's room. A situationist orgy among friends concludes the first act, and the second, where love is made on acid at Dachau and men die at home, makes as sharp a veer on paper as that between the Weimar Republic and Nazi Germany. Indiana once, in an essay on Brecht and Weill's opera, Rise and Fall of the City of Mahogany, found it possible to view the entire Weimar period as one of reprieve, a long one, relatively speaking, that produced an immense outpouring of superior creative work, which he likens to the time of cheap rent in post-Robert Moses, pre-Donald Trump Manhattan, i.e. the mid-'60s to the early '80s. Sarah Schulman, in her decade-old polemic The Gentrification of the Mind, remembers the critic Michael Bronsky saying, at a conference on AIDS literature in 1998, that if it weren't for the fear of the homo, it would be American literature. With Schulman, it's possible to imagine a world where Indiana is as American as John Knowles, and only slightly more homosexual. Indiana, who is from New Hampshire the way Conrad is from Poland, may not want to be that American. He belongs to literature purely. But, like Schulman, he dreads progressive memory loss, the encroachment of normalcy that passes for understanding. By the end of Gone Tomorrow, the narrator, valiantly combating the effects of alcohol, is thinking, it was a real effort not to become histrionic, sentimental. Robert and I were two men who did not know each other very well, both in early middle age, making pleasant masks for each other in the starlit dreamtime of the Chelsea roof, while all around us the world we had known all our lives moved inexorably toward a gray,